All right, what's up? How you doing? Welcome back to The Long Game this week. If you're new, this is David Lee Kim, co-founder of Omniscient Digital, and you're listening to The Long Game. In this episode, we have Austin Distel on the show. He's the marketing brain behind the AI writing tool you've probably heard of called Jasper, and is trusted by over 70,000 businesses. You can check them out at jasper.ai. I'll add this quick disclaimer. Distel is a bit of a special guest because the Omniscient Digital team has worked with Distel and the Jasper team for about the last 12 months to build out their content and SEO strategy and content production. You can read our case study about how our work together has contributed over $1 million in ARR. That's annual recurring revenue for Jasper. Yes, content can do that. In this conversation, we talk about Distel's marketing career journey and how he ended up leading marketing at Jasper and turning it into a company that has over 125 employees, and in the process built a community around a product that's resulted in people getting the logo tattooed on their body, real tattoos. That fanaticism around the product has resulted in tremendous growth for the company, and Distel subsequently hired his own boss recently, which we'll talk about. He also shares his take on AI's impact on the future of marketing and creativity, and I'll give you a hint. It's not all doom and gloom as you might typically see in the media. We end on a light note, and he shares a story about how he ended up on a billboard in the airport in Sydney, Australia. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Austin Distel. All right, Austin, it is so great to have you on The Long Game today. Thanks so much for making the time.
Hey, thanks, man. I'm excited to share some stories, some laughs, and give a lot of value here to the Long Game audience.
Yeah, we got a lot to jump into. And so I'm going to give a little bit of a brief intro, just the last couple of years, because you've had quite a long, distinguished career so far. And then I'm sure we'll dig into the past a little bit too. So you're currently at Jasper AI. Before that, you were CMO of Proof, built out the marketing org there, and then started Convergent AI, now known as Jasper. And that company's been growing exponentially. So I took a look at LinkedIn before this, and the company, Jasper, y'all started at 34 employees in January. Now, I think the last I checked, maybe it's been updated, but it was 128 employees. And you've been there from the start. So just tell us about that journey building Jasper from the ground up.
Yeah, the story goes back many years, probably 8 years, all the way back into when I was in college. And we can get into that story, but the TLDR is super blessed, and that Jasper has been, on this rocket ship, and it's fun to now be working with the best. We used to optimize our companies to be lean, mean fighting machines that, how can we have basically the most profit per employee? And, we're pretty good at that too. But now we're going for the moonshot, and it is time to recruit the best, scale the team, build the infrastructure, and really go all in. And so obviously with a new goal changes the way you do things. So you can see our team scaling up fast. It's pretty wild, to be honest. And I just got to hire my own boss, which is a really fun position to be in. I feel like that's kind of one of those days in an entrepreneur's life where you're like, well, I don't know how to build a 1,000-person company, but Megan does. And she's done it well before.
Yeah. You mentioned that shift from, and I think I saw this when you were building Proof too, like that lean machine, small team, just generating a lot of revenue and being pretty scrappy. How did y'all go about that mindset shift or even culture shift at Jasper of like, what was that conversation like to decide, actually, we don't want to build that company. We want to go for the moonshot?
As much as I would like to say it's some master plan we're all putting together, it's more of like, we're entrepreneurs, and the ground is always shifting beneath us, and we have to be agile. And the opportunity pretty much created the new desire and higher benchmarks of what success looks like. And, also others telling us, wow, like this is bigger. Like, this is bigger than proof. You can do more here. This can be bigger than what you had before. And so, and also the raving fan base. So seeing like, holy crap, we have these people that are obsessed. And that's like a weird thing to have for a software community is this level of obsession where we have 4 customers with tattoos on their body, like real, not temporary tattoos. And so it's just, pretty wild. It feels very natural though. It doesn't feel like this architected thing, but rather, smart people working on a great product, working with, the community that's actually surfacing like bottom up rather than top down approach of building the product and, solving some genuine real needs.
Yeah, it sounds like maybe the situation was, we're building this thing. We hit our goals. What now? I guess we got to go bigger is probably the higher level thing there. And you shared pictures of those tattoos. And I'm like, you're sure that's real? You serious? Because I worked at HubSpot. We had one person get the HubSpot logo tattooed, but they at least worked there. You're talking about customers getting those tattoos. And that's really unique and special. So I know that you have a large focus on building community. Community is kind of a buzzword nowadays, right? So I'd love to hear, how do you think about building community and what do you think led to this? I don't want to say cult, but it's kind of a cult of people just loving Jasper.
Yeah, well, Steve Jobs says you can't connect the dots looking forward, only looking backward. And if we were to look backward of Jasper's history, it goes all the way back to when I was in college in a marketing agency, and I spent all my spring break money on a course to try and scale my marketing agency. And luckily, by the end of the week, I ended up using the sales scripts I learned and grew revenue. And by the end of the year, I had become a case study. I got to finally meet my mentor in person. We had a pizza while I helped his fiance and him move out of their place in Atlanta, and they were going up to Maryland. And, it's funny because that was the moment I met Dave Rogan-Moser, who is the CEO of Jasper. We started off, as he was my coach and I was his student. And over the years, couple companies afterward, the community started off with like my peers in that course of marketing agency owners. And then it grew. The next phase was when I started working with Dave. It turned his course into a membership. And that membership was all about helping marketers, with the newest tactics and like growth hacks. And then it grew into software for that community. So the community itself was actually an echo chamber, a sounding board for building software. And that's when PayFunnels was created. That's when Proof was created, and eventually Jasper. So community is actually like the ground floor of what all of this has been built on. And then same email list, right? Like people that bought Jasper in the first pre-launch were people that also bought the course 5 years earlier. And
Wow.
so it's just to see like, wow, this is a raving fan base, but it's also a long-standing relationship. And we're not just like some new software on the block, but like more of like, this is a community that happened to help build the software. Secondly, Jasper started off with that Facebook group where we are helping implement AI into marketing campaigns and help you scale up. So scale up your creatives, scale up your team in your marketing agency, have that extra assistant, that sidekick on your team to enable your creative workflow. Over time, I'm talking about like a few months, the community starts saying, hey, can this be used for Amazon copywriting? Can this be used to like create LinkedIn messages? How about for a video sales script? And it just kept growing, right? People started creating slogans and jingles. They started creating baby names and writing birthday cards to their mothers. And so we just started to really see the possibilities here, which is really fun. And naturally, the product grew. All these features came from the community, and we still do that today. If you hop into our 70,000 person Facebook group, you'll see that every day, like, founders are posting in there, and we're saying, hey, what would you like from Jasper now? Give us feedback on this new feature. And they're very much a part of the building of the tool.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, coming from a product management background, the whole thing was take customer feedback with a grain of salt. Don't build everything they want. In this case, I'm sure you had to say no to a lot of things, but building what they wanted is what resulted in Jasper being the success it is today. Like, all the different use cases, all the different types of copy they wanted, you were just like, yep, we can do that for you. And so you're talking about community a lot. And I think when I see people try community nowadays, they spin up a Slack channel and invite a bunch of people, and it becomes a graveyard of self-promotion, is what I call it. But could you share some tactics about what that looks like? It sounds like product feedback is one of those things that really built that community, but how did y'all, over the course of 8 years, continue to engage the community and not just, it seems like they don't feel like they're just being monetized, which is what a lot of people do with communities nowadays, I've seen.
Sure. Yeah, I think about my role, head of marketing, now senior director of marketing, as we're adding all these fancy titles, is I'm really here to help bring up the community members, put them on a pedestal, give them the microphone, in a way that's constructive and pointed, that ends up helping others. So I'm like, hey, I want you to talk about these things. Tell us your story. Here's, you can do a training, and you can add in a sprinkle in some self-promotion if you want to. In exchange, everybody that is listening, which is thousands of people per week, get to learn from an expert. And I hand select these thought leaders. They're the keynote speakers at conferences, and they're the authors of books and the CEOs of startups. But I think about this more kind of like a museum. And so if there's 3 roles in the museum, there's the person who owns the museum, there's the tour guide, and then there's the artist. So the museum itself is Jasper, and it is the one that collects the tickets. Thanks for coming into our museum. You come on inside, and then you're going to be met with a tour guide. Now, in the beginning, it's me. Then it gets passed off to our head of video content and education, Kyle. But he's like the tour guide, showing you around on how to use, how to enjoy the museum. And then there's the artists. And I think of these as the customers. They are the Picassos, they are the Van Goghs. And it's actually, if you can create a viral loop of community, it is people they pay for the museum to see other people in the museum. Right now, it's not just like you can be anybody and get on the wall. You have to be using it well. You're the best. But that's what I try to do every week. Is I'm the tour guide. Thanks for coming into Jasper, or maybe you're scouting it out. You want a little free trial, and I show them, here are all of the accomplished ladies and gentlemen that have used Jasper. And so, for example, let's get real here. How I actually do this. I host a weekly webinar with an influencer customer. It could be Rachel Peterson, who taught on the webinar how she creates 3 months of social media content in less than 3 hours per month. And using AI. So that's It's awesome. We had 3,000 people show up live for that webinar. And the beauty is she also gets to promote as an affiliate to her widespread audience. She has 1 million TikTok followers and wrote a book and course creator. And then, so I've done this. She's one avatar, right? That course creator, thought leadership person. I've also done this with our integration partners. So Surfer SEO, we have a very great integration with Surfer. So if you're writing me and the founder of Surfer hop on a 2-hour long webinar, and we teach how to use our softwares together. And it's how to write a blog post with you and AI that ranks number one on Google. And within 2 hours, like that's the workshop, we show how to do it. He promotes to his audience, I promote to our audience, not just leads, but also customers. And I make it all about customers. We don't pitch that hard. It's like you kind of snuck in if you're a lead, but I always speak to them as if they're already a customer. And then there are like other, joint venture, like, so for example, a lot of people use Jasper for copywriting. And so I bring in the founder of the video sales letter, John Benson. And we actually had him, we partnered up on a technical front, and we taught Jasper all of his highest converting examples of the sales letters that have worked the best, creating billions of dollars in the revenue with a B. And we said, hey, Jasper, follow the pattern for our customers. So when you type in about your niche, your product line, and Jasper spits out a VSL for you, it's based off of John Benson's highest performing. And we actually had John himself do a webinar with us. So I'm always bringing up our customers, and I'm saying, hey, here's how they use AI to enable their creative workflow. And that's worked incredibly well. So we got to have, in community, you have to rise up leaders, and you have to show them what success looks like. And then they create disciples, and even offshoots of business start to happen. So there's other like micro education businesses that have popped up now in the Jasper ecosystem.
I love that approach, because it's less of the like direct, like do this stuff in your product, or hey, you should use our product. It's just, here's what's possible with our product. Are you in? Like, we can teach you how to do it. And it's very much like a coaching / mentor mentality. So kind of goes full circle, where you started off in Dave's copywriting course. Now you're enabling, I don't know how many users are on Jasper now, but like hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of people in copywriting. So that's a fascinating story.
Yeah, it's been pretty fun to also, rub shoulders with the greatest content writers and copywriters and marketers. Because look, I mean, we are not here to try and replace those people. We're here to be their best assistants. John Benson is Batman. Jasper's Robin. David Kim, you helped grow our SEO program. You, as a content writer and thinking about the SEO channel, you're Batman. Jasper, you're a little assistant that helps you make the words sound a little bit better and make it SEO friendly. So like, that's the goal here. It is to enable great marketing. And in fact, one of our top segments is marketing agencies and the creative type of people. Because we all face writer's block. We all face that creative, I'm stuck phase. I haven't had my coffee yet, or whatever. I just need to get a whole bunch of ideas out, or even the research for it. So we both know that takes a lot of time, the research of a niche, the pain points, the benefits, how to like bridge between the feature to a benefit. And so anyway, all of that stuff is what Jasper is brilliant at. And then it enables you to just kick ass as a strategist.
Yeah. Let's double down on that, because you went there. So there's a lot of talk about AI and its impact on the future of marketing. There's Dolly, and I think like an AI generated piece of art won a competition, and people are talking about AI copywriting tools, commoditizing writing and putting writers out of business. What's your take on all of that?
Whenever there's disruptive technology, there's always pushback. And, they end up finding a way. We're not here to disrupt the profession. We're here to enable a better experience of the profession. So what do I mean by that? Figma is, blowing up right now. It's one of the hottest like design tools. It's another tool in your tool belt, just like Microsoft Paint was back in the day. That's ridiculous to, make the analogy, but like a great tool should enable a thought process, a creative way of thinking that allows you to do better work or different work, differentiated work. And so Jasper helps you ideate. It doesn't take it all the way there. And we all know that. We all know it gets you like 50 to 80% of the way there. It gets your first draft done faster. It helps you storyboard. It helps you ideate. But it's not here to just like print your marketing work. And also, the truth is, the better the input, the better the output. Also, the worse the input, the worse the output. We got to know, like, this is not a self-driving car. And so you have to very much have your hand on the wheel, tell it the direction you want to go. You have to be a director. You're driving the machine. The machine is not driving you. So with that, where we see the creative profession going is, yes, art made by and with AI will be like part of that creative workflow, just like how Photoshop, Illustrator, Paint, ProWrite, all of these are amazing new innovative tools. I, for example, like created some ad image last week. I start off by getting the base and Jasper art. It created a picture of a unicorn. I said Napoleon style in a neon artistic light, and it did it well. And then I used Photoshop. I add my friend's face on it, Sean Bossler, and then I put text on it. And so that was just part of my creative workflow. The beauty is it's copyright free. So I mean, I've spent like countless hours on Unsplash trying to find the right image for. And then I just ended up uploading. You probably know that funny experiment, but uploading a whole bunch of my own photography because there's just not enough selection online, especially when I have a very specific purpose. It's just another tool in your creative workflow, and you can choose. By the way, if you're like a creative and you're feeling a little threatened by AI, look, you have the choice to choose. Do you want to learn technology? And this is a really simple tech to learn. Like you just tell it what you want and it does it. And you can figure out how to differentiate yourself, how to scale up your business, how to improve the type of creative, or even just get your thoughts out of your head into real life. And then you can go and iterate on it as you need. That's the biggest use case. Most people use it for brainstorming. And they don't use it for all the way, beginning to end implementation. It is more of a, if you feel lonely as a creative, this one customer, we were talking because he's a freelance copywriter, and he goes, honestly, my job is super lonely. I've been a freelance writer for 5 years. I have no teammates. And when I'm writing with Jasper in a coffee shop, I actually feel a little less lonely when I have my sidekick. And that's awesome, because how many of us feel lonely out there? As online entrepreneurs, we're on Zoom all day, and we don't have teammates next door to us. Having somebody to brainstorm and go back and forth with is really cool.
Yeah. And it's almost like the people who kind of, I don't know if it's the right word or if it's a word, but like they're talking about they're doomsplaining AI and its use cases have never actually used the tool. Because I've used it, I'm like, oh, this is actually a little difficult to use. I don't know the right way to provide inputs. And like me and Alex, Alex, like figured out like, oh, there's actually a skill to providing these inputs. And what that got me thinking is, think of all the people who might have this internal narrative in their head, like, oh, I'm not an artist, or I can't draw, I can't paint, I'm not a writer, but they have a lot of ideas. So Jasper is a tool that now enables them to get those ideas out in whether it's like visual or written form, which is to me fascinating because I cannot draw, but now I can just tell Jasper what image I have in my head and can probably help me get to something I would never be able to create in Photoshop.
Yeah. It reminds me of this one customer who's like an ex-artist, graphic designer, unfortunately got into a car wreck and is paralyzed, and they're not able to do the art that they used to, although they have a very vivid imagination. And so now they can text to art, like they can talk into their microphone. It writes out the text into the prompt. And now they can actually create the art that they want, and they can iterate on that, which is cool. And then there's maybe those who haven't developed the full skill set yet. So there's a mother in the Facebook community who every day they post about their child's imaginary stories that they do at night, rather than reading books, they actually create books out of her
That is so
kid's
cool.
imagination. So yeah, I mean, just think like, that kid, has a, I don't know, purple dinosaur buddy that she imagines like in her bed all the time, named Leo or something. And now Jasper can create Leo for her.
Dude, I can see some press story like 5-year-old kid creates visual book with AI or something. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's so wild. And I love of course, we're like, built for teams and we're going, we support big enterprises and all of that. But my heart opens up when I hear stories like what I just shared. That's truly what gets me going every day.
Yeah. So let's bring it around to the growth of Jasper, because y'all have essentially quadrupled in employees. You said you hired your own boss. So what are the sort of challenges and opportunities you're focused on now in your role?
Yeah, well, I mean, juggling many things as always, trying to really define what is the lane that I'm good at, because I'm a pretty diverse marketer. And as an entrepreneur, I'm like, oh, I can learn anything. What do I want to learn? What excites me to learn? What courses do I want to buy? Like things like that. Like I'm always down to take on an ad hoc challenge. And so right now I'm kind of looking at myself as like a special teams unit. If there's a new product launch, like you can always trust to throw Distel on it. If we need a new ad campaign up and going, like I'm fine to do something on video. I know how to write copy. I'm pretty savvy with design. So just really figuring out like where's my lane, and then hiring teammates for all the stuff around me. So just got an amazing teammate for the enterprise motion. She's growing out like, a whole marketing team around lead generation for supporting large teams. And then we're going to have like teams for our Chrome extension, team for the freemium product. Like all of these are different lanes. And so I'll pretty much, go from one team to another, continuing to create stuff. But I found like where I love focusing my time on, or I feel naturally inclined, is buzz and brand. So anything related to buzz and brand, which includes like community, includes advertising, and includes marketing strategy and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So it's interesting because you're kind of in a space where you're still juggling a lot, but maybe it's less than what it was before, and you kind of have space to actually ask what I want to work on, which I don't know if that's uncomfortable for you or not, because it seems like you're like, oh, give me a challenge, I'll step up to the occasion. And now you're sort of like, oh, I do kind of I gravitate more towards the brand and buzz and like the paid and copywriting side of things. That seems like there's a little bit of clarity there.
Yeah, timing is funny, like productivity, because as like a 12-person team, we are incredibly productive per person, where there's like no meetings. Like they just trust like all marketing is on Distel. So I don't have to consult with people. I don't have to like, assign roles. I just know like this is all on me. And so I'm going to do it all. And it's going to take me this amount of time. I'll stay up late. As you get more team members, you have to like coordinate so much more.
Yeah.
And there's like some crazy graph, if you look on Google, of the number of teammates that you have, the exponential rise in communication channels that have to happen and getting everybody on the same page. So going from, we were 7 people last year, and now we're 125. It's like, oh my gosh, so much of my day is spent like meetings and coordinating and just, saying the same stuff, and like less actually doing. So I'm working on like defining, here's a few key things I can take on. And another lesson that's been coming up for me is just because I can doesn't mean I should. And
what's an example of that? I want to dig into that because I feel like I'm also developing that skill as well. So how have you been maybe checking yourself, and what scenarios have you caught yourself?
Yeah. So like I built our website, Jasper AI, from scratch, and I'm pretty like savvy at direct response, writing, I'm pretty savvy at design, writing email sequences. But now as I've like started, I'm pretty good, right? I'm not the best. And so I'm pretty good at all of these. Now I can start to hire for example, I just hired this past week, Sean Vossler as our head of affiliate marketing. And this guy's like a famous dude. He's a best-selling book called The 7-Figure Marketing Copy. And he's like very well known in the affiliate world. So I grew our affiliate program to a large number. And at some point, I'm just like, I can't step on the gas more without taking my foot off something else. So just because I can doesn't mean I should. And so now I'm so pumped we have Sean on the team because he's like, 10 times better than I'll ever be at that. And he's like pedal to the metal on one key thing. So I just know with him at the helm, it's going to go so much faster and farther.
Yeah, that's a great example of it. It's probably different for everyone, but when you realize you can't push any further unless if you have to give something else away, which you also you can't remove your foot from the pedal there either, then it's probably time. So that's really helpful. I'm thinking of a couple of scenarios for myself where it's almost time to start letting go of some stuff.
Yeah.
Tell me about.
And it's funny because it's a bit of an identity crisis. You'll find like you get very caught up in like, I am that word, I am, and then you fill in the blank with whatever you think you are. But, it could be a title. It could be a skill set. I am an SEO guru, or I am a paid traffic media buyer, or whatever you want to like. If you don't have that, if you're not asked to do that anymore, like you might go through an identity crisis. And I've had one or two of those in my life.
Yeah. I mean, going into some philosophy or psychology or whatever you want to call it. But one thing I've learned is, at least as an entrepreneur, business person, or becoming a leader, it's just a process of continually letting go of your previous self and your previous mindset and skills, and figuring out who you need to be next or what you need to be able to do next in order to continue growing, or else you get stuck and like you get protective and you want to hold on to this thing that is probably being a bottleneck for everyone, including yourself. So I think that's a really important lesson you just shared.
Yeah.
So tell us about this process of hiring your own boss. I've hired my replacement before, but never my own boss. And when I think about what that feels like, I mean, there's a part of me where my ego comes to mind. I'm like, oh, am I not good enough? Or like, can I not grow into that? So if you're open, we'd love to hear about your thought process of going through that whole experience.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think at some point you just got to realize the goal that you're trying to achieve, you can probably do it like by growing yourself to get there, or you could hire somebody that's already achieved that goal and then just let them follow the blueprint that they've done before. And both work. I've seen like some entrepreneurs and, people that, it doesn't have to just be entrepreneurs, but like you could learn all of the skills it takes to hit your goal. And it might take a decade. Or you could just like replace yourself and, it then hits your goal in 1/10 the time. So, luckily we have a lot of team members that are very talented, and like those inner circles are intertwined. And so through recruitment and all of that, we end up finding the perfect person to lead the marketing team at Jasper. Megan was the VP of marketing at HubSpot. And then during COVID went on a stint to an amazing company called Wanderlust. And then came over here to Jasper. She, maybe not single-handedly, she built the team out and all of that, but she definitely had the spearheaded, the freemium offering at HubSpot, which is awesome. How many of you all use the CRM, the free CRM at HubSpot? Helping grow with Inbound, the marketing conference we've all probably been to, going enterprise and being able to create like a product that has multiple layers and different products within HubSpot, and eventually seeing them all the way through going public, which we do plan on going. So bringing her on to do that is a dream. And I am more than happy to take a seat to the side and learn from an amazing person like this. So I feel privileged, actually. And of course, like, yeah, it's like there's a half a second ego blow. Oh, I'm no longer CMO at Jasper. But at the same time, it's like Jasper's my baby, and it's like ultimately my nest egg. And so who do I want to, like, will my nest egg end up being bigger with her at the helm? Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, and also, will I grow more from having like a new mentor in the marketing space and I get to work side by side with her? Heck yeah. So, I mean, I am 100% behind her marketing plan, whatever it is.
Yeah, I love that mindset. And speaking from firsthand experience working with Megan at HubSpot, she is truly a gem, and I learned a ton from her. So I'm excited for you to get to learn from her as well. And you've kind of alluded to this too, but disclaimer for people listening: Austin and Jasper are clients of ours. We've been working together for I think a year and a half now, which is kind of crazy to think about. So I'm lucky with that I get to work with Megan again as well. So I'm excited about that.
It's pretty awesome.
Let's kind of take it a little bit to the beginning, where Jasper is kind of on this huge growth trajectory. If you were to rebuild a SaaS subscription business or rebuild Jasper's marketing engine from scratch today, what would you do differently, if anything?
Probably wouldn't have named it Jarvis for a second. I'm not sure if you know about that, but there was so basically we started off with a name called conversion.ai. And the truth is, the reason why we came up with that name is it was a domain we've been sitting on for a long time, and we just needed a name. And so we chose one out of our bank of domains. And eventually the community started like pet calling it Jarvis. And we're like, this is cool and it's better. And I like the personification of it. It's not just, an AI that feels like this technical thing, but it's also someone on your team. So yeah, we went like the personification. Jarvis ends up Iron Man's assistant's name is Jarvis, and Marvel doesn't like that too much. So they send us some letters, and now we're finally over it. We rebranded to Jasper, like coming up on a year now, and all is good in the neighborhood.
Is that something you're allowed to publicly talk about now?
Yeah, it's fine at this point.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's
all resolved. All right.
Yeah, we've come to an agreement, and that's that.
Okay. Well, maybe there are some details I want to ask about separately that you might want to not want to divulge. All right. That sounds like a great mistake you could have avoided. All right. I want to take this way back then, because I did some stalking. I looked at your LinkedIn, and it seems like you've had this entrepreneurial bug since you were a kid. So you founded Austin's Lawns back in 2004 at 12. You coached adults and children swimming lessons, and you're like a founder of like that program. What do you attribute this entrepreneurial personality to?
Yeah, so I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, where at 2 years old, my parents got divorced, and they still have a great relationship today. But I would spend my weekends with my dad and my weekdays with my mom. And she was like 21 when she had me, so I kind of felt like the man of the house early on. So I would like come home, have about an hour with her, and then she'd have to leave from her day job, come home, meet me at home, and then go to her night job. And, being raised by babysitters and seeing her like work so many jobs. And I was like, okay, well, earlier, I think I was around 7, maybe 9 years old, probably 9, started like trying to make my own way and get my own money. So I started walking dogs. Eventually I saved up enough money by the time I was 12 to buy a riding lawn John Deere mower because I was too skinny to push one. So started there, ended up like getting a whole bunch of local clients.
Of all the things you could have done, why did you decide to buy that? Like, of all the different services you could have provided?
it was something that I thought like, this is honest, fun work. I get a tan outside. I was 12, right? And
Get to drive this
I
thing
just
around.
enjoy being outside in the sun. And it was also like fun as a 12-year-old, like basically it's a go-kart with a giant blade beneath it. And there's something so rewarding about like you go to a lawn that is high, weeded, all of this. And after you put your personal touch on that lawn, it looks immaculate. Crisp lines, fresh smell. Like, I don't know. There's something so rewarding. And like the feedback loop was 45 minutes. So I just got addicted to making the neighborhood look beautiful. And so I went all around the lawn. But I would say where my entrepreneurial journey like really kicked in is the spring after I started. I for Valentine's Day got my mom a red bouquet of roses with my own money from Kroger. And when I got home and I gave it to her, she's like, "Oh my gosh, like you're the sweetest thing." Gave me all these kisses, and I was like, "This is awesome." I gave her so much joy with something that I earned with my own money as a gift. And I thought, man, if this is what like being an entrepreneur can be, and I can provide for myself, and then I can also give gifts, and I can like be satisfied with the work I've done. Like I'm addicted to this. So, I had that business for 10 years and I sold it in college for pennies on the dollar. But all throughout the time, I was always, hopping around to different ventures, and a lot of stories there we can hop into.
Yeah. And what happened to the Austin's private swimming lessons?
So I was
Were
at
you a
Lifetime
swimmer, like
Fitness.
competitive swimmer, or?
I've always been a fish, man, but I never swam competitively. And I still love swimming today. I got my freediving certification during COVID. Like everything shut down in Austin, so I went down to Tulum and stayed for like a month and learned how to freedive, like hold your breath super deep. I think I went like 70 feet at my deepest, just on your own breath.
70 feet?
Yeah.
Dude, I went scuba diving for the first time. I just learned how to be a decent swimmer. I went scuba diving for the first time. I think I was 40 feet down, and I was still like heart pumping, still getting used to I'm a land mammal, man. Like water freaks me out.
Yeah. So I had that, basically I was at Lifetime Fitness, like teaching swim, and I was getting paid $12 an hour. And each of the parents, I was like doing the math in my head. I was like, each of your kids is paying $75 for this lesson. I have 4 of them. I'm getting paid $12 for this. Are you serious? So I was like, did the math. I was like, okay, obviously I'm going to go and talk to every parent and say, you can pay the exact same thing, and I will go to your personal pool in your neighborhood or in your backyard and teach your kid how to swim on your turf. You don't have to come all the way out here. And so that's how I started like my little swim instructor business. And I did that for like 3 years, but then I eventually started like an online business.
Yeah. What was the first online business you did?
What was that? I don't know, man. There's like a whole bunch of different ones, but so funny story enough is I was at a Luke Bryan concert at UGA, and I used my fake ID to get some beer, and ended up going to jail that night for using the fake ID. And when I got out, I had like a year of probation. So all my friends would go to the bars, and then I would stay home, and I started like reading personal development, and I read this book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And the next day I changed my major after 2 years of being like pre-med. I changed it to online marketing, which was a brand new major at UGA.
Wow.
And that like totally set my path on a different direction. And I always like was tinkering with how do I sell these things online. But I think my first successful one was the agency, where I was doing it for already existing businesses.
Yeah. It's fascinating. I have a similar story, but I won't share it now. But it's fascinating how those things that happen to you, where you're like, fuck, I majorly fucked up, end up probably being like a blessing in disguise. So I love that story.
Yeah, I mean, I look back on it as probably the best thing that could have ever happened to me.
So I'm going to bring this up because I remember when we had our first call together, I'm like, this dude looks so familiar. I don't know if it's just one of those faces. And I was on Unsplash looking for some stock photos. I was like, that's how I fucking know him. This dude's all over Unsplash as like a stock photo person. So what's the story behind that? How did you end up doing that? Yeah. What came out of that?
So I was at Traffic and Conversion Summit. It's in San Diego. It's actually, I'm about to fly out there in like a week. And we're doing an ad campaign for Proof, and I couldn't find any good stock photos. So I was like, I hired a photographer in town. I was like, I need ads immediately. I even went on Unsplash. I couldn't like find good ones that didn't look all fake. So I just did a quick photo shoot with a friend. And from there, the ad campaign went well. But I was like, I'm going to give to the community. I'm going to make all of these ads available for free to the public. You can use my face to promote whatever you need. Unfortunately, you can't put parameters around that. So there's been some funny ones sent to me. But I totally forgot about it after I uploaded that, like those first ad images. And then I get a text from a friend. It said, bro, is this you? And I look, and it's like an ad from Tony Robbins, and it used my face. And it was something about productivity. But I was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing, because he's like my hero. And I go and look at my stats, and I'm going to bring them up right now. If you're on video, you can see. It's not. Is it gonna?
Yeah.
My green screen. Yeah, my green screen is gonna chop it out. But anyway, it says, this is wild. You're one of the 100 most seen contributors on Unsplash. 918,614,571 views. And then downloads, 7.5 million downloads. So It's just so wild. Like, it's been like 3 years, I think, since then. But I look at all these old photos, and I've uploaded a few since. It's basically a giant SEO strategy here. And the reason why I continued doing it is after that first time I saw Tony Robbins used it, I looked at like backlinks and people giving me shout outs, and like, wow, this is really taking an effect. So I started doing it with intention. I was like, there's no good crypto photos to use. Mm-hmm. So now I have the number one. If you look up like cryptocurrency stock photo, mine's the number one, and it shows this chart. And just for reference, I'm looking at the number right now. This is when Bitcoin was $3,810. That's when I took this photo. But yeah, so it's like, the beauty of it is I get the familiar thing often. And I get backlinks to my website, distel.com. And I get shout outs on social media. But ultimately, the number one reason why I do it is because it's freaking funny. And I just have a blast, like getting messages like, hey, dude, I'm in the Sydney airport, and I look up and you're the billboard greeting me as I'm walking into the Sydney airport. I'm like, that's awesome. That's more than I would pay for 100 backlinks. So like, just the fun of it all. Not all experiments have to make money. It's just
like, do strangers come up to you?
No. And again, nobody like knows my name. They just know me as like, you look familiar. But if I'm at a networking event, often people are like, I think I've seen you around or know you, or we've met before. And so that's fun. Conferences, networking events. And I also have an endless like amount of pictures I can use for slide decks and stuff. Yeah. The best is when I'm on a sales call, someone's pitching me and they end up using my photo in their deck. And I'm like, wow, you personalized that for me. Thank you. And they're stunned. They had no idea they were hopping on with me. That's a really fun moment.
That's a power move.
Yeah.
All right. I know we're coming up on time, so I got a couple closing questions for you, and then we'll wrap it up here. Okay. So first one here. What's one opinion you have about building a SaaS subscription business that you think people would disagree with?
Yeah. Well, most of the world starts off and they think that they should have their product available for free to gain an audience, to get it going. And, they call it beta mode. And so, hey, try it for free as a beta tester. Or They start off with freemium, and then they figure out how to go and get a paid program. That is not our way. We like to make money. We turn it on its head. We say you have to pay to be early access. You might even pay more to be the first. Elon Musk does this super well. I love that he's like, we're going to go expensive first with all of our cars and then try to work our way down market. So I think it's a really good business strategy. And even though it creates more friction, and that might create space for competitors to come in that undercut your value, the money keeps your roadmap extended. So, and it also validates with a credit card if your idea is actually good or not. So we always start off with paying for a product, and eventually we might make it free as a lead generation. Or we start off with a free trial, credit card required, ends in 5 days, automatic payment. It's like, that's not the best experience, but guess what? It grows a company. And we'll find a way eventually to build a freemium, which we're coming out with. So, but it's like, do the opposite. Like, if everybody else is doing freemium, do the opposite and you'll find yourself success.
Yeah. Two things on that. Coming from a product management background, the question was always, how do we reduce friction? And I'm like, friction is actually a good thing when you introduce it correctly. Like, you shouldn't just be making it easy for everyone to do. So +1 to that. And it's interesting. I was just talking to a mentor the other day, and he was like, one of my friends pitched this $50,000 service to a company, and that company said, we don't believe that a $50,000 service is going to solve our problems. And then he lost that deal, but 10x the price to $500K and immediately started winning enterprise deals. So the fact that you charge, it's like your product's probably better than all the free alternatives out there. So there's an interesting psychology to that.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is a really good example.
Yeah. So what's one piece of advice that's been very impactful for you?
It comes to mind right now because I just got back from Italy for like a couple weeks, celebrating a friend of mine, Gigi Worldwide is his Instagram. It's worth a follow. Because he just finished going to every country in the world, 197 countries. That's and so we got to celebrate him in Milan. We did like all these crazy nights. We did like a Gary Gatsby night, a neon night, Saints and Sinners night. And when this guy went around the world to 197 countries, he did it in a tuxedo. And it's like, why? Well, he has a whole story on that, and I won't ruin it for you. But what I like that he gets, the kind of the through line here, the punchline even, is if it's not wow, it's not worth doing. And I really like that saying. It applies to all things in life. If it's not wow, it's not worth doing. So if you're going to do a marketing campaign, do it wow. If you're going to build a product, do it wow. If you're going to throw a party, do it wow. I think it's a great way to think about life. And I try to apply it in all parts. Like, if I'm going to build a house, if it's not wow, it's not worth doing it. If I'm going to take Paige on a date, if it's not wow, it's not worth doing. So like our first date, we went to an all-you-can-drink wine bar, and that was
nice.
Fun. But like things like that, like how do you just do, wow things? If you're going to travel, like do it in style. And doesn't mean to do it expensively. It means to do it with creativity and charisma and fun, and get people involved. Like we had a brunch last week, and we said, okay, it's going to be a gold chain brunch, and everybody would just wear giant 12-cent gold chains. It's going to be fun. So you could do brunch the old way, or you could do it the gold chain way.
Yeah. Yeah, it reminds me of, I heard this from Derek Sivers. It's like, if it's not a hell yes, it's a no, which I think is along a similar vein there.
Yeah.
I use that almost all the time. If I ask someone a question and they're like, yeah, I'm like, that's a no, we're not doing it. Like, it just makes it a lot easier, right? Unless if there's a big smile on your face and you're excited, what's the point? Why waste your time on that?
Yeah, for sure. That's a good way to live life.
Yeah. You mentioned a book already, but what's one book you'd recommend more people read?
Yeah. So the first one I recommended was Rich Dad Poor Dad. And I think it's just a good like intro book for, crossing the gap from employee to entrepreneur and eventually investor. After that, I think the 4 Hour Work Week really like helped me realize how to spend money and like how to travel. That's like now such an important part of my life. And so creating the systems and thought processes around building a remote enabled company. And then which one? I think Scientific Advertising is a really quick but like very good read. It's you can beat every creative out there if you simply do advertising the scientific way. You don't have to be the most genius creative. You can actually A/B test your way to millions, and that's pretty awesome. I love that one. 80/20 principle. The copywriter's handbook is great. I feel like copywriting is one of those skills, and yes, like we're an AI copywriting software. And the reason why I feel so excited about our tool is because great copywriting unlocks so many doors. It gets you the job of your dreams. It gets you the date of your dreams. It might even like enable you to get the investment. It might enable you to get the presentation, speaking gig. It can make your friends and family cry when you give them a celebration. Beautiful, well-written copy can do so many things. So, learning it yourself, understanding like what good copywriting is. Secondly, like, I think it's fun. Like when you realize the power of words and what emotions they can unlock in people when they're read.
Yeah, I think that is a great point to end us on. So last question here is, where can people find you on the internet?
Yeah, you can find me around the internet and the world at distel.com. Also, Austin Distel is my tag on all socials. Jasper AI is the company. And I'm happy to chat with you all in the DMs.
All right. Thanks for making the time, Austin.
Absolutely. Thank you. Talk to you soon.